Rancher kicks out elderly man from his property, but when he discovers who the old man was, he panics. Robert Wilson felt the weight of his 72 years as the rancher threw his few belongings onto the dusty ground. 3 decades of working on that land, and now he was being cast out like some trespasser. "You have 1 hour to leave my property," said Michael Thompson, the new owner of Clearwater Ranch. "I don't want old folks getting in the way of the modernization I'm bringing here." The elderly man adjusted his battered straw hat and looked at the younger man. Michael had bought the ranch just 2 months prior, after the previous owner passed away without direct heirs. Robert had worked for 3 generations of that family, but to the new owner, he was just an obstacle. "Mr. Michael, I have nowhere to go." Robert's voice trembled, not from fear but from the emotion of seeing his life ripped away. "This has always been my home, not my problem. I've already told all the old workers, either adapt to my way of running things or leave. You clearly don't fit anymore." Robert looked around. The modest house where he lived at the back of the ranch, the orchard he had planted himself, the barn where he tended to the cattle, all of it was a part of him. But there was something Michael didn't know, something old Robert had kept secret for many years. "Can I at least say goodbye to the place?" the old man asked, clutching a small wooden box he had brought from inside the house. Michael glanced at the expensive watch on his wrist and made an impatient gesture. 30 minutes after that I want you gone. And don't think about coming back begging for work. People your age just hold back progress." The rancher turned his back and walked toward the main house, a colonial-style building that dominated the landscape. Robert stood there watching him leave. His calloused hands pressed the wooden box against his chest. Inside were documents that could change everything, but the old man had his reasons for keeping them hidden. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us newcomers a lot. Now, back to the story. Walking slowly across the property, Robert made his way to the old golden trumpet tree at the heart of the ranch. It was his favorite tree, planted over 100 years ago. He sat in its shade and opened the box for the first time in decades. Inside, along with yellowed photographs, were documents that told a story Michael Thompson could never have imagined. Meanwhile, in the main house, Michael was on the phone with his lawyer, Dr. William Parker. "I've gotten rid of the last of the old workers," Michael said, pouring himself a whiskey. "Now I can start modernizing without anyone whining about traditions." "Are you sure there won't be any problems?" the lawyer asked on the other end. "Some of those workers might have rights." "What rights?" "None of them had formal contracts. The previous owner was a sentimental fool who treated the ranch like one big family. I'm here to make money, not run a retirement home." Michael hung up and looked out the window. He saw Robert sitting under the golden trumpet tree and shook his head in disdain. To him, the old man represented everything wrong with the previous: management, sentimentality, clinging to the past, lack of business vision. What he didn't know was that Jennifer, his wife, was watching everything from the porch. The 45-year-old woman felt a pang in her heart at the sight. She had known Robert since she was a child, when she visited the ranch with her parents. "Michael, don't you think you're being too harsh?" she tried to reason as her husband walked past her. "Jennifer, we've talked about this. The ranch needs to turn a profit. I can't keep unproductive people around just out of charity." But Mr. Robert was always so dedicated. He was, in the past. Now he's just a stubborn old man who refuses to accept change. End of discussion. Jennifer sighed and turned her gaze back to the elderly man under the tree. Something about that scene deeply unsettled her, but she couldn't pinpoint what. Robert kept looking at the documents when he heard footsteps approaching. It was Sam, the ranch foreman, a 50-year-old man who was also on Michael's list to be let go. "Mr. Robert, is it true the boss fired you?" The old man tucked the papers back into the box before answering. "It's true, Sam. Seems my time. Here is over. That ain't right. You know every inch of this land better than anyone. How can he just let it go, son? Everyone has their time. Mine has passed." But Sam noticed something odd in Robert's expression. It wasn't resignation. It was something deeper, as if the old man was keeping a secret. "Where will you go?" "I've got some relatives in Pleasant Creek. I'll see if I can find a place there. Pleasant Creek was 200 kilometers away. Sam knew Robert wasn't in any shape to start over somewhere new, but what could he do? He'd probably be next on the list himself. If you need help with your things, don't trouble yourself, Sam. I don't have much anyway. A whole life. Fits into 2 suitcases. The foreman walked away with a heavy heart. He'd known Robert for 20 years and had never seen the old man so calm in the face of something so hard. It was like he knew something the others didn't. Michael, watching from the office window, saw the exchange between the 2 workers and didn't like it. He picked up the phone and called the ranch security. "Carl, keep an eye on old Robert. I don't want him talking to the other workers and stirring up trouble. I want him off the property in 15 minutes. On the other side of the house, Jennifer decided to go down and speak to Robert. Something pushed her to do it, a feeling she couldn't explain. As she approached the golden trumpet tree, she found the old man closing the wooden box. "Mr. Robert." "Mrs. Jennifer," he stood, respectfully removing his straw hat. "Are you all right?" "I should be asking you that. I heard, Michael, that my husband asked you to leave." "Don't worry about me, Mrs. Jennifer. I'll be fine." Jennifer noticed the box in his hands, and something stirred in her memory. Where had she seen that box before? "Mr. Robert, how long did you say you've worked here?" 32 years, Mrs. Jennifer. I've seen a lot happen on this ranch. I've seen folks born, grow up." He paused, looking straight into her eyes. "I've seen folks leave and come back without knowing they'd returned." Robert's cryptic words left Jennifer confused, but before she could ask more, Carl, the security guard, approached. "Mr. Robert, the boss says your time's up. I need to escort you out." "No need, Carl. I know the way." Jennifer wanted to protest, but Robert gave her a gentle gesture to reassure her. The old man walked toward the small house in the back where he lived, followed by the guard. Jennifer stayed under the golden trumpet tree with a strange feeling that something very important was happening, and she couldn't understand what. In the simple house, Robert gathered his few clothes, some personal items, and carefully wrapped the wooden box in a cloth. His hands trembled slightly as he did. How many times had he thought about revealing what was inside that box? How many times had he been tempted to tell the truth? But something always stopped him. Maybe it was fear, maybe prudence, or maybe the right time just hadn't come yet. Carl watched impatiently as the old man packed his things. "Let's go, Mr. Robert. I don't have all day." "I'm almost done, son. A whole life can't be undone." "In minutes." The security guard huffed, but something in the old man's tone made him stay quiet. There was a dignity in Robert that commanded respect, even in a humiliating situation like this. When he finally left the house with 2 worn-out suitcases and a wrapped box, Robert took one last look around. The midday sun was harsh, but he didn't seem to care. He walked slowly toward the main gate of the ranch, each step a silent farewell. Along the way, he passed the stable where the horses neighed. One of them, a chestnut named Thunder, stretched his head out as if to say goodbye. Robert stopped and stroked the animal's muzzle. "Take good care of him, Carl. This horse has history." "Hurry up, old man." The security guard was getting nervous. Something about the situation bothered him, but he had orders to follow. They continued walking and passed the garden Robert had tended. The tomato plants were heavy with fruit, the lettuce green and vibrant, all cared for with love. Mrs. Rose, the ranch's cook, was picking some herbs and froze when she saw the scene. "Mr. Robert, what's happening?" "I'm leaving, Mrs. Rose. Take care of the garden for me." The 60-year-old woman dropped her basket and ran to them. "Leaving? You can't. Who'll tend to the medicinal plants? Who'll teach me the teas? You already know all you need, Mrs. Rose. The plants will keep growing with or without me." Rose began to cry, and Carl had to step in. "Mrs. Rose, please. Boss's orders." "What boss? That boy doesn't know what he's doing. Mr. Robert is the soul of this ranch." Robert gently touched the cook's shoulder. "Don't cry, my dear. Everything has its time. Mine here is over, but who knows, maybe one day—" He didn't finish the sentence. Rose hugged the old man, her tears dampening his faded blue overalls. Other workers nearby began gathering, all with looks of disbelief and sadness. John, the tractor driver, dropped what he was doing and came running. Peter and Luke, the ranch hands, stopped fixing the fence. Mary, who cared for the main house, appeared on the back porch, Within minutes, a small crowd had formed around Robert. "This can't be happening," John shouted. "Mister, Robert taught us everything." "He gave me a job when no one else would," said Peter, choked up. "I'd just gotten out of prison and he believed in me." The workers' words became a chorus of protest and emotion. Carl didn't know what to seize. He grabbed his radio to call for backup, but Robert placed a hand on the device. "No need, Carl, I'll leave, but let me say goodbye to my friends." The old man hugged each person there. He knew their stories, had been part of their lives, their struggles, their joys. To many, he was more than a co-worker. He was a father, a mentor, a friend. Michael watched everything from the office window, growing more irritated by the minute. This commotion was exactly what he didn't want. He rushed downstairs and approached the group. "What's going on here? Everyone standing around? Get back to work now." His voice cut through the air like a whip. The workers exchanged glances, but no one moved. "I said back to work, or do you want to join the old man?" "Don't talk about him like that." Mrs. Rose stood up to the boss. "Mr. Robert is worth more than—" "Shut up! One more word and you're out too." Robert stepped in before things escalated. "Let it go, Mrs. Rose. It's not worth it. You all have families to feed. Go back to work." Reluctantly, the workers began dispersing, but not without casting disapproving looks at Michael. The rancher didn't care. To him, respect was earned through authority, not sentiment. "You have 5 minutes to leave my property," said Michael, looking coldly at Robert. "Your property?" The old man repeated the words slowly, as if tasting their bitterness. "Yes, for now it is yours." Michael frowned at the cryptic response but paid it no mind. Old people always talked nonsense. Jennifer appeared at the door of the main house and saw the scene. Her heart clenched as she watched Robert being escorted out like a criminal. She rushed down the stairs. "Michael, for heaven's sake, there's no need for this." "Jennifer, go back inside. This isn't your concern." "It is. I grew up seeing Mr. Robert on this ranch. He's part of this place's history." "History doesn't pay the bills, Jennifer. Now go back inside." The woman looked at Robert, searching for some way to help, but the old man shook his head gently. "Don't worry, Mrs. Jennifer. Everything will be fine." He kept walking, now nearing the main gate. Outside, on the dirt road, an old bus waited, the weekly transport that took the farm workers to town. Robert stopped at the gate and turned one last time. His eyes swept over the ranch, the main house with its colonial architecture, the stables, the corrals, the green pastures, the orchard. So much history, so many memories. "One day," he murmured to himself, "one day the truth will come out." Michael, impatient, shouted, "Hurry up, old man, I don't have all day." Robert adjusted his straw hat, picked up his suitcases and the wrapped wooden box, and stepped through the gate. Outside, before boarding the bus, he looked back once more. Jennifer stood on the porch. Mrs. Rose wept by the kitchen door and the other workers watched from a distance. The bus driver, Joe, had known Robert for years. "Mr. Robert, what are you doing here with suitcases?" "Change of plans, Joe. Can you take me to town?" "Of course, but—" "Are you leaving the ranch?" Robert didn't answer. He settled onto the dusty bus seat, carefully placing the wooden box on his lap. As the bus rumbled down the dirt road, kicking up a cloud of red dust, the old man closed his eyes and let the tears fall at last. Michael returned to the office, satisfied. Finally, he could implement his plans without old traditions getting in the way. Little did he know he had just made the biggest mistake of his life. Jennifer stayed on the porch for a long time, watching the bus's dust fade into the horizon. Something inside her screamed that this was wrong, deeply wrong. But what? Why did she feel she knew Robert from somewhere beyond the ranch? That night, dinner in the main house was tense. Jennifer barely touched her food, and Michael noticed. "Still upset about the old man. I can't shake the feeling we made a mistake, Michael. Not we, me, and it wasn't a mistake. The ranch needs to modernize." "At what cost?" "Did you see how the workers reacted? They respected Mr. Robert. Respect is earned with a firm hand, not coddling. In a few weeks they'll forget the old man and learn who's in charge here." Jennifer pushed her plate away and stood. "You don't understand, Michael. A ranch isn't just land and cattle. It's the people, the stories, the traditions. Traditions don't pay the debts your father left when he sold this place." The words hit Jennifer like a slap. Her father had sold the neighboring ranch to Michael after years of mismanagement. That's how she'd met her husband. He'd arrived as the savior, the successful businessman who would fix everything. But now she was starting to question his ways. Meanwhile, in town, Robert stepped off the bus at the small station. Pleasant Creek was a modest but bustling little town. The elderly man walked through the streets carrying his suitcases, searching for the cheap inn he knew from previous trips. Mrs. Dorothy, the owner of the cozy inn, was surprised to see him. "Mr. Robert, it's been so long, but with suitcases. I need a room for a while, Mrs. Dorothy. How much is the nightly rate?" The woman sensed something was wrong. She had known Robert for decades, ever since he used to come to town to buy supplies for the ranch. "For you, I'll give a special price, but tell me, what happened?" "Just a change of scenery, Mrs. Dorothy, that's all." The innkeeper didn't believe him, but respected her old friend's privacy. She showed him a simple but clean room with a bed, a wardrobe, and a small table. Alone in the room, Robert finally unwrapped the wooden box. He opened it once more and spread the contents on the bed. Old photographs, documents, certificates, a deed. He picked up one photo in particular. It showed a young couple holding a baby in front of the big house at Clearwater Ranch. "The time has come," he said to himself, "but I need to do this the right way." The next day, Robert woke up early and went to the town's notary office. The notary, Dr. Franklin, was an elderly man who knew the region's history well. "Mr. Robert, what a surprise. What brings you here?" "I need to verify some documents, Dr. Franklin. Old business." The old man showed him some papers from the box. The notary put on his glasses and began examining them. As he read, his eyes widened. "My God, Robert, is this real?" "As real as you and me standing here now. But why did you keep this hidden for so long?" "I had my reasons, Doctor, but now it's time to bring the truth to light." Dr. Franklin continued examining the documents, taking notes, checking seals and signatures. "It's all in order, all official, but you know this will cause an earthquake, don't you?" "I do. That's why I need to do everything properly by the book. I'll need to make some verifications, check the old records. It may take a few days." "I have time, Doctor. I've waited over 30 years. I can wait a few more days." Back at the ranch, Robert's absence was already being felt. The medicinal plants only he knew how to care for were starting to wilt. The chestnut horse Thunder refused to eat, whinnying sadly. Small problems the old man used to solve easily began piling up. Sam tried to keep everything in order, but it was hard. Robert knew every detail of the ranch, every quirk of the land, every way to handle the cattle. Without him, it was as if the ranch had lost its compass. Michael didn't care about these details. He was busy with his modernization plans. He had hired an agricultural consulting firm to assess the necessary changes. "We need to cut down that golden trumpet tree," the consultant said, pointing at the century-old tree. "It's right in the middle of where we could build a new corral." Jennifer, who was passing by, overheard the conversation and intervened. "No, that tree is over 100 years old. It's part of the ranch's history." "Jennifer, please." Michael was losing patience. "Let the professionals do their work." "Professionals? They don't know anything about this place." "Mr. Robert would know enough about that old man. He's not here anymore. Get over it." The argument was interrupted by Mrs. Rose, who came running from the kitchen. Boss, there's a problem with the artesian well." "What problem?" "The water's coming out muddy, dirty. We can't use it in the kitchen." Michael huffed, irritated. "Another problem." "Call Sam." "I already did." "He said the one who understood the well was Mr. Robert. He knew exactly where the spring was, how to clean the pipes, then call a technician from town." "But boss, Mr. Robert could fix this in half an hour." "I said call a technician and—" "Stop mentioning that old man." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. The days passed and the problems multiplied. The technician came to inspect the well and charged a fortune for the job Robert would have done for free. The medicinal plants died, and Mrs. Rose had to buy medication at the pharmacy for her high blood pressure. The chestnut horse Thunder fell ill from sadness, and the vet couldn't figure out what was wrong with him. Jennifer watched everything with growing concern. The ranch seemed to be losing its soul. The workers labored with their heads down without their former enthusiasm. The laughter that once echoed across the fields was replaced by a heavy silence. One afternoon, while Michael was in a meeting with the consultants, Jennifer decided to go to the room where Robert had lived. The small house was exactly as he had left it, except for the absence of his personal belongings. She stepped inside slowly, breathing in the lingering scent of medicinal herbs that still clung to the walls. On the shelf, a few empty jars where he had kept his teas. In the corner, a small stool where he would sit to fix tools. Then Jennifer noticed something that caught her attention: height marks on the wall, like the ones parents make to track their children's growth. But these were old, very old. Beside each mark, a date and an initial: J 1985, J 1986, J 1987. Her heart raced. J, could that stand for Jennifer? But she was born in 1980. The dates matched her childhood, yet she had never lived on the ranch, or had she? Suddenly a memory flashed like lightning. Her as a little girl running through the fields, a young man lifting her into his arms, laughing. But it wasn't her father. Who was it? Why couldn't she remember? Jennifer left the house unsettled. There was something very strange about all of this. She decided to call her mother, who lived in New York. "Mom, I need to ask you something. Did I live at Clearwater Ranch when I was little?" On the other end of the line, a tense silence. "Why are you asking that, Jennifer? Mom, please, just answer. It's complicated, dear. Your father and we had some problems when you were little. We were separated for a while." "And where was I during that time?" Another silence. "Mom, you stayed with some relatives of your father's at the ranch next to Clearwater. But you were so young. You probably don't remember." Jennifer felt the ground vanish beneath her. Relatives of her father's at the neighboring ranch? But who? And why had no one ever mentioned this? "Which relatives, Mom?" "Jennifer, that was so long ago. It doesn't matter anymore." "It does matter. Which relatives? I don't know exactly. Your father handled everything. When we reconciled, we came to get you, and we never spoke of it again." Jennifer hung up with more questions than answers. Something in her past was hidden, and she had a feeling Robert knew what it was. That same day in Pleasant Creek, Robert received a visit from Dr. Franklin. "I've checked everything, Robert. The documents are authentic, but there's one thing." "What is it, Doctor?" "The original deed to the ranch has a clause I've never seen before. A reversion clause." "Go on." "If the rightful heir appears within 40 years of the irregular transfer, the property reverts to them. And from what I see here, there are only a few months left before that deadline expires." Robert nodded slowly. "I know, Doctor. That's why I decided to act now. If I waited any longer, I'd lose the right forever. But you understand you'll need to prove not just the documentation, but also your identity. After so much time." "I have proof, Doctor. All the proof I need." The notary picked up one document in particular, a birth certificate. "Robert Wilson Sanders. But here it says you were born in 1952. I know. I'm not 72 like everyone thinks. I'm 73. I changed my age when I started working at the ranch. I had my reasons." "And this other name here, is this your real name?" "Yes, Robert Wilson Sanders is the name I've used for 30 years. But my baptismal name, the one on the original deed to the ranch, is different." Dr. Franklin read the name and turned pale. "Good heavens, Ed, I'm the true owner of Clearwater Ranch, and the time has come to reclaim what's rightfully mine." Back at the ranch, Michael was getting bad news from the vet. "I'm sorry, Mr. Thompson, but the horse won't make it. He's simply lost the will to live." "What do you mean, lost the will?" "It's an animal. Animals have feelings too. Sir, this horse is depressed. Did you know his caretaker, a man named Robert, left? He was fired, so what? Horses form strong bonds, sometimes when they lose someone important. That's ridiculous, it's just a horse." The vet shook his head in disapproval. "If you don't understand the emotional value of animals, you shouldn't own a ranch." Michael was furious at the remark, but before he could respond, Sam came running. Boss, trouble in the north pasture." "What now?" "The fence is completely broken. The cattle got out." "What do you mean, got out? Where are the ranch hands?" They're trying to round them up, but Mr. Wilson always said that fence needed special maintenance because of the soil. You told us to ignore his advice. Shut up and go help round up the cattle. The situation was spiraling out of control. In just 1 week without Robert, the ranch seemed to be falling apart. Jennifer watched everything with a mix of worry and strange satisfaction. Maybe now Michael would understand the old worker's worth. That night Jennifer couldn't sleep. The marks on the wall, the conversation with her mother, the fragmented memories, everything swirled in her head. She decided to go down to the main house's library, where the ranch's old documents were kept. She began searching through the dusty files, sales contracts, employee records, old photographs. Then she found a folder labeled 1980-1990. She opened it with trembling hands. Inside were dozens of photos, and in many of them a little girl who looked just like her as a child. The girl was always with a couple, a man and a woman Jennifer didn't recognize, but there was something familiar about them. One photo in particular caught her eye. The girl was sitting on the man's lap, both smiling, and in the background, the ranch's golden trumpet tree was clearly visible. On the back of the photo, handwritten, Jennifer, age 5, with her godparents. Godparents? Jennifer didn't remember having godparents. Her parents had always said she was baptized with only her grandparents as witnesses. More lies. She kept searching and found a document that made her blood run cold. A temporary guardianship agreement for Jennifer Fields Oliver, minor, granted to a couple whose names were partially faded by time. But she could still make out the surname Sanders. Sanders. Why did that name feel important? Suddenly, like a bolt of lightning, Jennifer remembered. Robert Wilson Sanders. That was his full name. But no, it couldn't be. Or could it? Her heart racing, Jennifer picked up the photos and studied the man more closely. He was younger, without the wrinkles and white hair, but the eyes, the kind eyes, were the same. It was Robert, younger, but definitely him. Did that mean she had lived on the ranch as a child, that Robert had been her godfather? But why had no one ever told her? Why had he never said anything? Jennifer was so absorbed in her discoveries that she didn't hear Michael entering the library. "What are you doing here at this hour?" She startled, dropping a few photos. I couldn't sleep. I came to look for..." Michael bent down to pick up the photos and froze when he saw their contents. Where did these photos come from? They were in the ranch's archives. "Michael, look. That's me as a child. And this one here is... That's old Robert. Younger. But it's him. Did you know?" Michael stayed silent for a few seconds. "No, but this explains a lot. The way he looked at you, how protective he always was. Michael, I need to find him. I need to understand what happened." "Jennifer, whatever it is, it's in the past. It's not worth it? Apparently I spent part of my childhood here and no one ever told me. Robert was my godfather and pretended not to know me all these years. Maybe he had his reasons." "What reasons?" "Michael, what if there's more we don't know?" The rancher took the photos from his wife's hands and examined them more closely. In one of them, in the background, you could see the main house with a sign at the entrance. He grabbed a magnifying glass to read it better. "Clearwater Ranch, property of the Sanders family." Michael dropped the magnifying glass. "No, it can't be." "What is it?" "Jennifer, when I bought this ranch, they told me the previous owner had died without heirs. But if the ranch belonged to the Sanders family and Robert is a Sanders..." They exchanged glances, reaching the same terrifying conclusion. "My God, Michael, what if Robert is the rightful heir?" The next morning, very early, Michael went to the town clerk's office to check the ranch's documents. He needed to be sure his business was secure. What he discovered left him even more worried. The substitute clerk, a young lawyer, searched through the files. "Here it is, Mr. Thompson. Clearwater Ranch was sold in 1993 by Joseph Oliver Fields. That was the man who died and from whom I bought the ranch, right?" "Exactly. But there's something odd here. Before 1993, the ranch was under Anthony Sanders' name, and there's no record of purchase by Mr. Joseph Oliver. Just this transfer in 1993. What do you mean? He didn't buy the ranch?" From what I see here, the transfer was based on a deed of gift. But it's strange that there are no witnesses, just a notarized signature. Michael felt a chill down his spine. Something was very wrong with this story. I need copies of all these documents. Of course, but Mr. Thompson, if there's any irregularity in the original transfer, it could affect the validity of your purchase. Michael left the clerk's office disturbed. If the ranch wasn't rightfully Joseph Oliver's, then his purchase could be voided. All his investment, all his plans. He decided to look for the lawyer who had mediated the purchase, Dr. William Parker. He needed answers urgently. Meanwhile, Jennifer had decided to find Robert. She asked the workers, learned about Pleasant Creek, and set off driving alone. She needed to confront the man who had apparently been so important in her childhood. At the Cozy Inn, Mrs. Dorothy greeted her with surprise. "You're looking for Mr. Robert? He's in his room. But may I ask?" "I'm Jennifer Thompson from Clearwater Ranch." "Ah, the new owner's wife. Mr. Robert has spoken about you. Very fondly, in fact. He talked about me. Said he's known you since you were little. That you're a good woman but married the wrong man." Jennifer grew even more intrigued. She climbed the stairs with a racing heart. She knocked on the door. "Come in." Robert's voice was the same, calm and gentle. When Jennifer entered, he was sitting at the small table, the wooden box open in front of him. "Mrs. Jennifer, I was expecting you." "Expecting me?" "I knew sooner or later you'd find out. You've always been a very smart girl, very curious." Jennifer sat in the only available chair, face to face with the old man. "So it's true, I lived at the ranch. Were you my godfather?" Robert smiled sadly. "Yes, my dear. From ages 3 to 6, the most beautiful years of my life were watching you grow." "But why did you never say anything? Why did you pretend not to know me?" "Because I made a promise. And also because it was dangerous." "Dangerous? How?" Robert took one of the photos from the box and handed it to Jennifer. It showed her in the arms of a beautiful woman with black hair and green eyes. "This was my wife, Helen, your godmother. She loved you as if you were our own child." "Was? She died. In an accident. At least, that's what they said at the time." Jennifer felt a chill. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying there are many secrets buried at that ranch, Mrs. Jennifer. Secrets that could hurt a lot of people if they came to light." "Mr. Wilson, please, I need to understand. What happened? Why did my parents leave me with you? Why did they later pretend nothing happened?" The old man sighed deeply. He seemed to have aged 10 years in seconds. "Your father, Mrs. Jennifer, your father got involved in dangerous business. He owed money to very dangerous people. Your mother was afraid of what might happen to you, so they brought me here." "Not exactly. Your mother ran away with you. She showed up at the ranch in the middle of the night, desperate. Helen, and I took you both in. You stayed hidden with us for 3 years." Jennifer was stunned. Had her whole life been a lie? "And my father?" "He showed up after a year. He'd settled his problems, or so he claimed. He wanted to take you back. Your mother didn't want to go, she was scared, but he insisted, promised everything was fine." "And you let us go?" "What could we do? He was your father. He had legal rights, but Helen didn't trust him. She said something was wrong, and she was right." "What happened?" Robert closed his eyes, as if the memory was too painful. "A week after you left, Helen went into town for groceries. Her car was found in a ravine. The brakes had failed. The police called it an accident, but you didn't believe it. Helen had just had the car serviced, and more, the day before she'd gotten a phone call. Someone told her to forget about you, forget what she knew, or something bad would happen. She brushed it off, thought it was a prank." Tears streamed down Jennifer's face. "My God, are you saying my father—" "I don't know, Mrs. Jennifer. I have no proof. I only know I lost my Helen, and I was made to promise I'd never look for you, never speak of what happened." "Who made you promise?" "Your father. He showed up at Helen's funeral, said he was sorry, but if I valued my life and your safety, I'd forget you existed." Jennifer was trembling. The image of her father in her memory, a hard-working man who'd passed away when she was 15, was crumbling. But you didn't forget. How could I? You were our little girl. Helen and I couldn't have children, and you were the blessing God gave us, even if only for a short time. So I did what I could, changed my name, aged my appearance, and got a job at the neighboring ranch to keep an eye on you. You changed your name? Robert pulled another document from the box. My real name is Anthony Robert Sanders. Robert was my middle name. Wilson was my mother's maiden name. It was easy to create a new identity back when records weren't so strict. Jennifer's head ached as she processed everything. Anthony Sanders, the original owner of Clearwater Ranch. That's right, the ranch was mine. I inherited it from my father, but after Helen died, after the threats, I was afraid. I transferred everything to Joseph Oliver, your neighbor at the time. He promised to take care of it and return it when it was safe. Joseph Oliver, the man Michael bought the ranch from. Exactly. Only Joseph never returned it. He kept my ranch all these years, and when he died, his lawyer sold everything as if it were legitimate inheritance. Jennifer stood up. She needed air. The small bedroom window overlooked the bustling street of Pleasant Creek. Everything made sense now. How Robert knew every corner of the ranch, the special affection he had for it, the sadness in his eyes when he was expelled. Why now? Why decide to tell everything now? Because of your husband. When he kicked me out, when I saw the contempt in his eyes, something broke inside me. I realized I had lived in fear for too long. Helen wouldn't have wanted that. And also, dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps those of us just starting out. Now continuing. Also what? The legal deadline to reclaim the ranch is running out. If I don't act now, I lose the right forever, and I can't let that happen. That ranch holds Helen's memories, our story. I can't leave it in the hands of someone who doesn't value any of it. Jennifer sat back down. She looked at the man in front of her, no longer the old employee, but her godfather, the man who had cared for her, who had lost everything to protect her. What are you going to do? I've already started the legal process. Dr. Franklin is handling everything. Soon your husband will receive a notice. Michael will be furious. I know, but it's the right thing to do. The ranch is rightfully mine, and more. I have documents proving the transfer to Joseph Oliver was done under duress. That voids any subsequent sale. Jennifer knew this would mean ruin for Michael. He had invested everything in the ranch, taken out loans. Mr. Robert. Anthony, what should I call you? Robert is fine. It's how you've known me all these years. Robert, isn't there another way? Michael can be harsh, but he's not to blame for what happened in the past. I know, my dear. That's why I'll make him an offer. But first, he needs to understand the truth. He needs to know who he's dealing with. What kind of offer? That will depend on him, on how he reacts, how he handles the situation. But one thing I promise, that ranch will return to the right hands, even if it's the last thing I do in this life. Jennifer said goodbye with a tight hug. She had so much to process. During the trip back, her mind was in turmoil. How would she tell Michael everything? How would he react? When she arrived at the ranch, she found her husband in the office, surrounded by papers, his face twisted in anger. Jennifer, where were you? I've been trying to call you for hours. My phone had no signal. What happened? I got a legal notice. Someone is contesting the ranch's ownership. Jennifer took a deep breath. It was time. I know, Michael. I need to tell you something. She told him everything, every detail of her conversation with Robert, the discoveries about his past, the old man's true identity. Michael listened, in silence, his face turning from red to white and back to red again. You're telling me the old man I kicked out is the real owner of the ranch? Yes. And that you lived here as a child, were raised by him, and never told me. I didn't know, Michael. I just found out yesterday. Michael slammed his fist on the desk. This is a nightmare. I invested everything here. I took out loans. If I lose the ranch... He said he'll make you an offer. An offer? What offer? He wants the ranch back. Michael, try to understand. He lost his wife, was threatened, lived in hiding for 30 years. So what? That's not my problem. I bought the ranch legally. legally from someone who wasn't the real owner. The argument was cut short by Sam, who knocked urgently on the door. "Boss, Thunder." "What now?" "The horse died, boss. The vet said it was from sadness." Robert threw the papers in the air, furious. "Great, perfect. A horse worth thousands of dollars dead from sadness. Next, the cattle will run away from longing too." Sam lowered his head and left. Jennifer looked at her husband disapprovingly. "You didn't have to be rude to him." "I don't need a moral lesson right now, Jennifer. I need solutions. The solution is to talk to Robert. See what his proposal is." "Talk? To that old liar?" "He didn't lie. He omitted to protect himself and me." "How convenient." Jennifer realized it was pointless to argue with Robert in that state. He was blinded by anger and fear of losing everything. She left the office and went to the garden, needing to think. Sitting on the bench under the golden trumpet tree, Jennifer recalled fragments of her childhood that now made sense. The familiarity she felt with the ranch, the instinctive affection she had for Robert, even her love for horses. Thunder had been her first equine friend as a child. Mrs. Rose approached with a cup of tea. "I thought you might need this." "Thank you, Rose. I heard you found Mr. Robert." Jennifer was surprised. "How did you—" "Sam told me. You went to Pleasant Creek this morning." "Oh. May I sit?" Jennifer nodded. Mrs. Rose settled beside her. "You know, I've worked here for 20 years. I've seen a lot. And I always thought it was strange how Mr. Robert looked at you." "What do you mean?" "With pride. Like a father looks at his daughter. Now it makes sense." "You knew?" "Not the details. But I knew there was a story. Mr. Robert sometimes let things slip. Once you were sick with a fever. He spent the whole night making tea, pacing back and forth. When I asked why he was so worried, he said, 'I lost her once. I can't lose her again.'" Jennifer felt the tears returning. "Why didn't anyone ever say anything?" "Because we respected Mr. Robert. If he had secrets, he had his reasons, and now we know he did." The two sat in silence for a few minutes, sipping their tea. "Mrs. Rose, what are the workers thinking?" "About all this? They're hopeful. If Mr. Robert comes back as the owner, everything will get better. No offense to your husband, but I understand. Robert never knew how to win you over. He treats us like numbers, not people. Mr. Robert always knew each of our children's names, knew our problems, helped us. It's different." Jennifer nodded. It really was different. And she was starting to wonder which side she wanted to be on in this story. The next day, Robert received a visit from his lawyer, Dr. William Parker. The man was visibly nervous. "Robert, I've reviewed the documents you sent me. The situation is complicated." "How complicated?" "If what this Robert is claiming is true, and the documents suggest it is, you could lose everything. The original sale was fraudulent, which voids all subsequent transactions. But I bought it in good faith, Benil. I know. That's why we can try to negotiate. But be prepared. He has the law on his side." Robert paced back and forth like a caged lion. "How much time do we have?" "The judge will schedule a preliminary hearing, probably in 2 weeks. I suggest you try to talk to him before then." "Talk? Everyone wants me to talk to that old man." "Robert, it's your best option. If it goes to court, you'll lose. But if he's willing to negotiate—" Robert dismissed the lawyer and was left alone in the office. Everything he had worked for, all his plans, were crumbling, and all because of an old man he had scorned. The irony wasn't lost on him. Meanwhile, in Pleasant Creek, Robert received an unexpected visitor. It was Sam, the foreman. "Mr. Robert, I'm so glad I found you. Sam, what brings you here, son?" "I came to warn you. Thunder has died." Robert closed his eyes, feeling the pain of loss. "Poor old friend. I knew this would happen. That horse was too sensitive." "There's more, Mr. Wilson. The workers are organizing. If you come back as the owner, they all want to stay, but if not, we're thinking of leaving together. No one can stand Dr. Michael's ways anymore." Robert shook his head. "Don't do that, Sam. You all have families to feed." "But, Mr. Wilson, listen, things will work out. One way or another, be patient. Are you really going to get the ranch back?" "God willing, Sam, God willing." After the foreman left, Robert grew thoughtful. He didn't want to harm Michael and Jennifer, but he also couldn't give up what was rightfully his. He needed a solution that was fair to everyone. He took paper and pen and began to write a proposal, a chance for everyone to win. But would Michael accept it? 2 days later, Jennifer convinced Michael to go with her to Pleasant Creek. The rancher was reluctant but knew he had little choice. At the cozy inn, Robert greeted them with his usual warmth. Michael could barely look at him, the old worker. He had humiliated was, in truth, the rightful owner of everything. "Dr. Thompson, Mrs. Jennifer, thank you for coming." "Let's get straight to the point," Michael said curtly. "What do you want?" "What's rightfully mine. But it doesn't have to be the way you're thinking." Robert picked up the paper he had written. "This is my proposal. You've invested a lot in the ranch, I acknowledge that. It wouldn't be fair to take everything from you." Michael took the paper and read it. His eyes widened. "You want a partnership?" "That's right. 60% for me, 40% for you. I bring the land and experience. You bring the capital and business connections. Jennifer would be the manager since she knows both sides." Jennifer was surprised. "Me? You grew up on that ranch. You know it's hard. And you have a degree in, business from what I hear. You'd be perfect to bridge tradition with modernity." Michael kept reading the terms. "Here it says all the old workers must stay. It's non-negotiable, those people are the soul of the ranch. And that the golden trumpet tree can't be cut down. That tree is over 100 years old. Helen loved sitting in its shade." Michael set the paper down. "And if I refuse, then we'll meet in court, and you know how that will end." The room fell into tense silence. Jennifer looked from her husband to Robert, waiting. "I need time to think," Michael finally said. "Of course, but decide soon. Every day that passes, the ranch suffers more." It was true, without Robert, small problems had become crises. Maintenance costs had tripled, productivity had plummeted. On the way back, Michael drove in silence. Jennifer tried to break it. "It's a fair offer, Michael." "Fair. I lose 60% of what's mine, of what was never truly yours." "Jennifer, whose side are you on?" "The side of justice, Michael, and common sense. With Robert, the ranch will thrive. You saw how it was without him. I can hire other workers. Like thunder. Can you hire another horse to die of sadness?" The remark stung. Michael knew she was right, but his pride wouldn't let him admit it. That night, Michael couldn't sleep. He paced the house, drinking whiskey, searching for a way out. But there was none. Robert held all the cards. In the morning, Jennifer found her husband slumped in his office. "I'll accept the offer," he said without looking at her. "It's the right decision, Michael. I have no choice. It's this, or lose everything. It could be the start of something good. Robert knows the ranch like no one else, with his experience and your business sense." "Stop, Jennifer. Don't sugarcoat it. I was humiliated. I kicked the owner off his own ranch." Jennifer approached her husband. "Everyone makes mistakes, Michael. What matters is how we fix them. Do you think he'll forgive me, after how I treated him? Robert is a good man. If he's offering a partnership, it means he's willing to move forward." Michael nodded, defeated. He picked up the phone and called his lawyer, instructing him to prepare the partnership papers. The news spread quickly through the ranch. The workers were overjoyed. Mr. Wilson was coming back. Not as an employee, but as the owner, as he always should have been. Mrs. Rose cried with emotion. Sam gathered the ranch hands to share the good news. Even the animals seemed to sense the change in the air. The cows mooed louder, the roosters crowed at odd hours. A week later, everyone gathered at the main house for the contract signing. Robert arrived wearing his usual simple clothes, the faded blue overalls, the cotton shirt, the straw hat. Michael waited for him in a suit, formal and distant. The contrast between the two men was striking. "Before we sign," said Robert, "I want to make a few things clear." Michael braced himself for more demands. "First, the past stays in the past. I hold no grudge against you, Dr. Thompson. You did what you thought was right with the information you had." Michael was surprised by the generosity. "Second, we'll work together. You have knowledge I don't. We can learn from each other. And third," Robert looked at Jennifer, "I want my goddaughter to be happy. This ranch has seen enough sadness. It's time to create joy. Jennifer hugged her godfather, moved. Michael watched the scene, beginning to understand the depth of the man he had underestimated. The papers were signed. Robert Wilson Sanders, or rather Anthony Robert Sanders, was once again the majority owner of Clearwater Ranch. The first thing he did was gather all the workers in the yard. "My friends, I'm back. Not as Mr. Wilson, the employee, but as Anthony Sanders, the owner. But I want you to know nothing changes between us. Keep calling me Mr. Wilson. I'm still the same man you've known all these years." The workers applauded. Some cried with emotion. "Now, we have work to do. The ranch has suffered these past weeks. Let's get everything in order. Sam, I want a report on all the issues. Mrs. Rose, prepare a special lunch to celebrate. John, Peter, Luke, let's fix that fence in the north pasture." It was as if the ranch had woken from a nightmare. Everyone rushed to their posts with renewed energy. In just a few hours, what had seemed impossible to fix was being resolved. Michael watched everything from the porch next to Jennifer. "It's amazing," he admitted. "In one morning, he's done more than I did in weeks." That's the power of respect, Michael. People work better for someone they admire. Do you think I'll ever earn that? If you learn from him, yes. And Michael decided to learn. In the days that followed, he began accompanying Robert on his rounds through the ranch. The older man patiently taught him about the soil, the animals, the plants, but mostly about the people. "Take John," Robert would say. "He's quiet, but he notices everything. When he speaks, listen. It'll be important. Orcar Peter had a tough past, but look how he cares for the calves, gentle as a mother. Everyone deserves a second chance." Michael began to see the workers in a new light. They weren't just labor, they were people with stories, dreams, unique talents. A month later, the ranch was unrecognizable. Milk production had increased, the crops flourished, new business opportunities arose. The combination of Robert's tradition and Michael's commercial vision was bearing fruit. Jennifer, as the manager, bridged the two worlds. He implemented modern controls without losing the human touch. He created benefits for the employees and improved working conditions. One afternoon, the three of them were gathered under the golden trumpet tree, reviewing the month's numbers. "We've surpassed all our goals," Jennifer said proudly. "It's a good start," agreed Michael, who had learned to be less arrogant. "The credit belongs to everyone," Robert said. "Each one doing their part." It was then that Jennifer asked the question that had been tormenting her for weeks. "Godfather," she now called him that. "What really happened to my father?" Robert sighed. He knew this moment would come. "Your father got involved with loan sharks, Jennifer. He owed a lot of money. When you fled here, he was being hunted. And then? Then he made a deal. I never knew the details, but suddenly the debts disappeared, and he returned prosperous. Soon after, Helen died. Do you think that? I don't know, my dear. I have no proof. But time brought justice. He died young, of a heart attack. Maybe the weight of guilt." Jennifer absorbed the information. Her father wasn't the hero she had imagined, but he wasn't a monster either. He was a man who had made wrong choices and paid for them. "And my mother? Did she know?" "Your mother suspected. That's why she never came back here. That's why she invented that story about you staying with relatives. It was easier than explaining the truth. I need to talk to her. Do that, but be kind. She suffered a lot too." The three fell silent, each lost in their thoughts. The sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. "You know," Robert said suddenly, "Helen loved this time of day. She said it was when the sky showed the colors of hope." "She must have been an incredible woman," Jennifer said. "She was. You two would have gotten along well. She had your determination, your intelligence." Michael, who had stayed quiet, surprised them all. "I'd like to learn more about her, about the ranch's history. If we're going to be partners, I need to understand the past to build the future." Robert smiled. It was the first time Michael had shown genuine interest in the human side of the ranch. "Come with me." He led them to a room in the main house that was always locked. He opened it with an old key. "This was my father's office. I've kept—" "Say it as it was." The place was a time capsule, Antique furniture, dusty books, photographs on the walls. The history of Clearwater Ranch was all there. Robert showed them old photos. His parents, his grandparents, the construction of the main house, the first harvests, and of course photos of him with Helen. I met Helen at a fair in Pleasant Creek. She was selling treats to raise funds for the church. I fell in love at first sight. The photos showed a young, passionate couple. Helen was truly beautiful, dark hair, green eyes, a radiant smile. We married here, under the golden trumpet tree. It was the most beautiful celebration the ranch had ever seen. Everyone from the area came. Jennifer picked up a wedding photo. Hundreds of people, tables overflowing with food, musicians playing. The ranch in celebration. It seems like a happy time. It was. The best years of my life. Helen transformed this house. Before it was all work. She brought music, art, joy. Michael studied the photos of the previous owners, generations of the Sanders family, all with the same determined look as Robert. Your family built all this from nothing. My great-grandfather arrived here when there was nothing but wilderness. He cleared the land, planted, built. Each generation added something. And now it's our turn, Jennifer said. That's right. The past is important, but the future is what matters. They spent hours in that office learning the ranch's history. Michael began to understand he hadn't just bought land and cattle, he had bought a legacy. When they finally stepped out, the moon was high in the sky. Thank you for sharing this, Michael said to Robert. The story is ours now, Dr. Michael. Yours too. The two men greeted each other with a firm handshake. Jennifer watched, moved. Who would have thought their initial conflict would turn into mutual respect? In the following months, Clearwater Ranch flourished like never before. The unique blend of tradition and innovation drew attention. Journalists came to write stories. Other ranchers came to learn. Robert implemented ancient management techniques that improved milk quality. Michael formed partnerships with major companies. Jennifer created a social program for employees' children. The ranch became a model of humane and efficient management. Awards came, recognition too. But the most important thing was the harmony that settled in. A year later, on the anniversary of their partnership, they threw a big celebration. They invited the whole community, just like in the old days. Live music, plenty of food, joy everywhere. Robert, watching the party from the porch, had tears in his eyes. Helen would have loved to see this, he said to Jennifer, standing beside him. I'm sure she's watching, Godfather. You know, when I was kicked out, I thought it was the end, but it was the beginning. Sometimes we need to lose everything to gain what truly matters. Michael joined them, carrying 3 glasses of champagne. A toast? To what? Robert asked. To new beginnings, to second chances, to family. To family, Jennifer and Robert repeated. The glasses clinked under the starry sky. Below, the party continued. Mrs. Rose danced with Sam. The ranch hands played cards. Children ran across the yard. You know, Michael said, a year ago, I thought success was profit, efficiency, modernity. And now? Robert asked. Now I know success is this. Happy people working with purpose, building something together. Took you long enough, Jennifer teased. I had good teachers. Robert smiled. The arrogant young man who had kicked him out had become a better man. The ranch had that power to transform people. I have something to tell you, Jennifer suddenly said. Both men looked at her. I'm pregnant. The news was met with explosive joy. Michael hugged his wife. Robert cried with emotion. A great-grandchild. Helen, you're going to be a great-grandmother, he shouted to the sky. Great-grandmother? Michael was puzzled. To me, you're my children. This baby will be my great-grandchild in heart. The party grew even livelier as the news spread. Everyone celebrated. A new Sanders was coming to the ranch. 9 months later, Helen was born. The name was a unanimous choice, a tribute to the woman who, though gone, remained present in every corner of the ranch. Robert held the little girl with infinite care. Welcome to Clearwater Ranch, little Helen. This land is yours by right and by love. The baby, as if understanding, opened her little green eyes. green like those of the great-grandmother she would never meet, but whose memory would live on through her. Years passed. Little Helen grew up running through the same fields where Jennifer had played decades before. Robert, now truly old, taught his great-granddaughter the secrets of the land. "See, Helen," he said, kneeling in the garden, "every plant has its time, you can't rush it. Nature knows what it's doing." The 5-year-old listened intently. "Great-grandpa, why do you love the ranch so much?" "Because my whole story is here, my love. Every tree holds a memory. Every corner has a story. One day you'll understand." Michael and Jennifer watched from afar. They had learned to cherish these moments. The business was doing well, but the family was doing better. "Sometimes I think about the day I kicked him out," Michael said. "How blind I was." "We all make mistakes, love. What matters is you fixed it in time. Thanks to you. Thanks to fate. Some things have to happen for better things to come." It was true. If Michael hadn't bought the ranch, Jennifer would never have reunited with Robert. If he hadn't been expelled, Robert would never have revealed the truth. Every piece fell into place at the right time. On a Sunday morning, the whole family gathered for lunch. The large table on the porch was set with the finest china. It was Robert's birthday, 78 years old. "Here's to the man who taught us the true value of things," said Michael, raising his glass. "To the best godfather in the world," Jennifer added. "To the best great-grandpa," little Helen shouted. Robert smiled, moved. He looked around, his chosen family, his loyal employees, his thriving ranch. Helen was right. The sky sometimes shows the colors of hope. "You know," he said, "I spent 30 years hiding who I was, living in fear in the shadows. But I learned that the truth, even when it hurts, sets you free." "Do you regret anything?" asked Mrs. Rose. "Only not having the courage sooner, but maybe it wasn't the right time. Everything has its moment." The lively lunch continued. Stories were told, laughter shared. Little Helen ran between the tables, playing with the employees' children. As the sun began to set, Robert walked to the golden trumpet tree. It was his daily ritual, sitting there and talking to Helen. Jennifer followed him. "She's here, you know," he said. "I feel her presence." "I feel it too. Sometimes when the wind rustles the leaves, it's like I hear her laugh." "She loved your laugh, Jennifer. Said it was like music." They stood in silence, enjoying the gentle breeze. "Godfather, can I ask you something?" "Of course, my dear." "Was it worth it? All the pain, the waiting, the secret?" Robert took a long moment before answering. "Every second, because it brought me here. It gave me you back, a new family, a purpose." Helen would understand. "I think she planned it all." From up there. "I think so too. She was always smarter than me." They laughed together. Little Helen came running and jumped into her great-grandfather's lap. "Great-grandpa, tell me a story." "What story do you want to hear?" "The one about the magic ranch." Robert smiled. He had made up that story for his great-granddaughter, blending reality and fantasy. Once upon a time, there was a ranch where trees kept secrets and animals understood people's hearts. Jennifer quietly stepped away, leaving grandfather and granddaughter to their special moment. She found Michael in the office. "Working. On a Sunday?" "Just wrapping up a few details. We got the contract with that supermarket chain." "Congratulations, Robert will be so proud." "It's funny how I still seek his approval." "It's not funny. It's respect. You've changed a lot." "Michael. For the better, I hope. Much better." They hugged. Through the window, they could see Robert telling stories to Helen under the golden trumpet tree, a scene that repeated across generations. 2 years passed. Clearwater Ranch was now a case study in universities. Students of agriculture, business, and human resources came to study the Clearwater model. Robert, at 80, still oversaw everything, but was gradually passing more responsibilities to Jennifer and Michael. His greatest joy was teaching little Helen about the ranch. One winter morning, Robert didn't show up for breakfast. Jennifer went to his house and found him in bed, pale. "Godfather, what's wrong?" "It's nothing, dear. Just a little chest pain. It'll pass." But Jennifer called the doctor immediately. The diagnosis was concerning. Robert's heart was weak. "He needs complete rest," said Dr. Oakley, "and possibly surgery." "No surgery," Robert protested. "I'm 80, doctor. My heart has beaten all it needs to." "Godfather, don't talk like that." "It's the truth, Jennifer. I'm not afraid. I've lived everything I needed to. I watched you grow up twice, met my great-granddaughter, got my ranch back." "What more could I want?" Jennifer cried. Michael, who had come running upon hearing. The news tried to argue. "Robert, let's take you to the best doctors. We have the means." "I know, son. And I'm grateful. But some things can't be bought. My time is coming, and that's okay." The following days were tough. Robert was transferred to the hospital but insisted on returning to the ranch. "If I'm to go, let it be at home," he said. Medical equipment was set up in his room. Nurses took turns caring for him. But what truly kept him going were the visits. Every worker stopped by to see him. They talked about their work, asked for advice. Little Helen spent hours by his bedside showing him drawings she'd made. "Look, great-grandpa, I drew the golden trumpet tree. It's beautiful, sweetheart. You have a gift." One afternoon, Robert asked to speak with Jennifer and Michael alone. "I need to get everything in order." "Godfather, no!" "Listen, my share of the ranch goes to both of you equally, but there's one condition." "What?" asked Michael. "The ranch can never be sold. It must go to Helen and her children. It's a legacy, not a business." "We promise," they said together. "And one more thing. I want to be buried beside Helen under the golden trumpet tree. It's all arranged." "Godfather," Jennifer couldn't stop crying. "Don't cry, my dear. I'll be reunited with my Helen. We'll have eternity to make up for lost time." That night, Robert asked to be taken to the tree. Sitting in a wheelchair, wrapped in blankets to keep warm, he gazed at his beloved tree. "You know," he said, "to Jennifer, this tree has seen it all. It saw my wedding, saw Helen leave, watched you grow up, saw me grow old. If it could talk—" "It does, Godfather, through the memories we hold. You learned well. Helen would be proud." They stayed there until sunset. When they returned home, Robert seemed at peace. In the early hours of the next morning, he passed away, sleeping, painless, with a smile on his lips, as if he'd seen something beautiful in his final moment. The funeral was the largest the region had ever seen. Hundreds came to pay their respects. Workers, neighbors, business partners, even competitors. Everyone had a story about how Robert had helped them. Little Helen placed a drawing on the casket. It was the golden trumpet tree, with two figures holding hands beneath it. "Great-grandpa and great-grandma Helen," it read in a child's handwriting. Jennifer spoke at the funeral. "Robert taught us that true wealth isn't in the land or the cattle, but in the people and the stories we build. He lived in hiding for 30 years to protect me, then had the courage to reveal the truth and rebuild everything. He was a father without being a father, a grandfather without being a grandfather, but more family than many who share the same blood. May his memory inspire us to be better, braver, truer." Michael also spoke. "I kicked him out thinking he was just an old worker. He taught me humility, showed me that to lead is to serve, that respect is earned by example. He turned an arrogant businessman into a better man. So I promise, Clearwater Ranch will always be what he dreamed, a place of dignified work, preserved history and love for the land." They buried Robert beside Helen under the golden trumpet tree as he'd wished. The tree seemed fuller that day, as if embracing its beloved children. After the funeral, life went on, but not the same. The ranch had a different energy, as if Robert had left a part of himself in every corner. Jennifer took the lead with Michael by her side. They implemented everything Robert had dreamed of: a school for workers' children, an organic products cooperative, environmental preservation. Little Helen grew up hearing stories about her great-grandfather. By 10, she knew every medicinal plant, could name every cow, and talk to the horses just like Robert had. Mom," she said one day, "when I grow up I want to take care of the ranch like great-grandpa did." "You will, my love. It's your destiny and your choice." On a spring afternoon, 5 years after Robert's passing, the family gathered under the golden trumpet tree. Jennifer, Michael, Helen, and now also Peter, their 2-year-old little brother. "Tell us the story, Mom," Helen begged. "Which story?" The true story about great-grandpa, the ranch, everything. Jennifer smiled. It was time to pass on the legacy. Once upon a time there was a man named Anthony Robert Sanders. He loved this land and loved his wife Helen, but life played tricks on him. She told them everything, hiding nothing. The children listened, fascinated. When she finished, Helen said, "So great-grandpa was a hero." "Yes, sweetheart, a hero who taught us that truth sets you free, that love transforms, that the land is sacred." The wind rustled the branches of the golden trumpet tree, shaking loose a few yellow leaves. Peter ran to catch them, laughing. "Look, the tree is happy." Maybe it was. After all, the story continued. New chapters were being written, new memories made, new love planted. Michael hugged his family and looked around. The ranch was beautiful, thriving, full of life. The workers sang as they worked. The animals grazed peacefully. The big house gleamed in the sunlight. "Robert was right," he said. "Some things have to happen so better ones can come." And they did, Jennifer agreed. Every single one. They stood there under the shade of the golden trumpet tree, feeling the presence of those who had gone but never truly left. Because real love doesn't die. It turns into memory, into example, into seeds for the future. Clearwater Ranch would go on, with new challenges, new joys, new generations, but always remembering the old man in blue overalls and a straw hat who had the courage to hide the truth to protect those he loved, and then even greater courage to reveal it. Robert was right. The land remembers. And in that soil, every grain held a piece of him. His kindness, his wisdom, his ability to forgive and start again. The sun set, painting the sky with the colors of hope that Helen had loved so much. Little, Helen took her mother's hand. "Mom, one day I'll tell this story to my children. You will, my love, and they'll tell it to theirs, because some stories deserve to be eternal. Like great-grandpa and great-grandma Helen's. Love. Exactly like their love." The golden trumpet tree swayed gently as if in agreement, and somewhere beyond the horizon, Robert and Helen smiled, knowing their legacy was in good hands. The ranch slept peacefully that night, lulled by the song of crickets and the certainty that tomorrow would be even better. Because when you plant love and truth, all you can harvest is happiness. And so the story that began with an unjust expulsion ended in unity and prosperity, proving that sometimes you have to lose everything to gain what truly matters. That forgiveness transforms, that humility uplifts, that love outlasts time. Clearwater Ranch would stand as a witness that no secret stays hidden forever, no injustice goes uncorrected, no real love ever dies. And beneath the ancient golden trumpet tree, the voices of past and present joined in an eternal chorus. Here, on this blessed land, the truth will always find its way. The end of the story. Dear listeners, we hope you were moved by Robert's journey. Do you think Michael made the right choice by accepting the partnership? We'd love to know where you're watching from and what you thought. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you so much for joining us, and see you next story.